All right, everyone, we will get started. This is Misty Woods, and I'll be conducting today's monthly call. It will be the April monthly call today that we're going over. All right, so here's today's agenda. First, we'll start talking about the administrative reviews and procurement reviews for the current school year. And then we'll move on to discuss some CEP population, some basically review some of the slides from the CEP population training. We'll go over a few things about SSO and SFSP, and then we'll go over a few slides about food service management companies, as well as some health inspection reminders. And then we have a slide on that audit report submission memo that went out. And then we'll talk about some summer EBT reminders. And then we'll go over our memos as usual. And then ending with the upcoming trainings and events and Louisiana Tray of the Week. All right, first up, the AR and PR reviews. So for this current school year, and we talked about this before, we had 38 scheduled administrative and procurement reviews. So all of the on-site reviews have been completed. So all of CNRs and all of LDOEs have been completed, at least the on-site portion of it. The CNR contract does end on April 30th, so all CNR reviews will need to be closed out by that date. We are completing, when I say we, I mean LDOE, is completing follow-up reviews for those SFAs that were determined high risk last school year. So during the 24-25 school year, if your SFA was deemed high risk, we're completing those follow-up reviews. We started in March and we're hoping to do that through May. And again, if you are getting a follow-up review, you have been notified and are in the process of submitting information to us. We still get a lot of questions about not sure when their review is going to be. So if you are unsure of when your administrative review is or when it's coming up, there is a schedule on the current CNP website under the School Food Service Resources. Once the follow-up reviews that are being conducted this school year, so hopefully by the end of this school year when we have those follow-ups completed, we will start scheduling technical assistance visits for those SFAs that are being reviewed next school year. So if you're being reviewed in 26-27 school year, you should start receiving, hopefully sometime in May, probably into June and into July, some technical assistance visits to get you prepared for your review. LDOE is planning, so we had a lot of questions about this as well. We as LDOE are planning to conduct approximately 50% of the reviews that are scheduled for next school year. And then the rest of the scheduled reviews will be conducted by the contractor. We've had a lot of questions about the contractor. Who will that be? We still do not have anything finalized. It still has to be approved and everything by DESE. So we talk about high risk assessment because we still get a lot of questions about that as well. So once you receive your review closure letter, actually, let me back up for a second. Whenever you get your summary of findings, you actually get scored based off of those summary of findings. And from there, you're determined whether you are high risk for any particular module or section. And then whenever it comes time for your closure letter, you'll either get a preliminary closure letter if you are high risk, or you'll get a regular closure letter. When you get a preliminary closure letter, usually within probably a day most times, you will get a high risk letter letting you know that you were determined to be high risk in a specific module, and it'll be an email from me and it'll list the modules and it'll basically tell you that we have to follow up in those sections within 2 years. And the reason for that is because we have been approved for a 5-year review cycle. So we are required, since we've been approved for 5 years, that we have to conduct targeted follow-up reviews to any SFA that was designated high risk in a specific sections within 2 years of their initial administrative review. Again, when it comes to follow-ups, we're only going to conduct it in the area or the module that is high risk. So it's not going to be a full-blown review again. It'll just be on those specific sections that you were deemed to be high risk. As of now, the follow-up reviews are primarily being conducted by LDOE. And we are using a hybrid approach, meaning that it may be offsite and it may be done on and offsite. So sometimes we may not even have to go back out on site. Some things can be done as almost like a desk audit. But again, this is on a case by case basis. And then to talk about repeat findings, we do have the discretion to apply fiscal action for repeat findings. We could consider withholding program payments, like a part of it or all of it, to any SFA that has repeat findings that are not corrected. And again, this will also be on a case by case basis because we will have to evaluate the cause of that repeat finding and determine that extent that fiscal action may have to occur. All right, let's go over some important slides regarding CEP population. So these are the CEP deadline dates. It's important to note that all SFAs must confirm the population data in eScholar CEP Manager by April 15th, which is not that far away. That's next week. All SFAs must make final elections for CEP for the 2026-27 school year between we have our training on May 12th, so more than likely CEP will open up for elections probably May 12th or 13th, and then all the way into June 30th, but you have until June 30th to make those elections. But first, we need to focus on CEP population. So any LEAs operating CEP are required to conduct data match at least once annually, but it is recommended to be conducted monthly. And this will allow you to take advantage of that ISP increase as well as observe demographic trends. The identified student percentage, the ISP, must be established based on data as of April 1st of the school year prior to CEP election. So that's why you're taking data as of April 1st of this year for next school year. An important reminder here is that manual matches in your school food service software, make sure that you download that match file from eScholar because it does not, like when you put stuff in your food service software system, it doesn't automatically transfer into eScholar. So make sure you also make those matches in eScholar. So to make CEP Manager successful, your CNP staff and your data managers must work together to ensure that all the enrolled students and identified students are up to date. So see, these are some of the things that need to happen. You need to resubmit the current students to Unique ID for ID assignment and claim the master record. Direct Match, uses the master records in Unique ID to match against the SNAP and TANF and Medicaid files. And those history records in Unique ID are not used in Direct Match. You're going to run the Direct Match for both SNAP, TANF, and Medicaid, and you resolve all those near matches. You're going to resolve all address matches. You're going to ensure that DSNAP children have been added to eScholar if there are DSNAP children. And you're going to ensure that all DC extensions completed in the food service software are actually entered into eScholar through manual authorization, which we just talked about. And I say we, it's either you or your data manager, or whoever in your district is in charge of making sure everything is done in direct match. For this information, though, if you have additional questions or you need more information, I have Anantha's email on here. She is the direct contact person when it comes to questions about address matches, resolving near matches, anything to do with direct match. Please email Anantha. Also linked on this slide is the eScholar Direct Match training for end users for an overview of the Direct Match system. So if you need a refresher on some things regarding Direct Match, you can refer to this training. All identified students must be reported in eScholar Direct Match to automatically feed into the CEP Manager system within eScholar. Enrollment and identified students should be up to date for April 1st. Or should have been, I should say. It is important that SFAs have an idea that their data will be accurate on April 1st. So CEP Manager, if you haven't already logged in, it is open to begin reviewing that data that's in there. It is important to remember that data will need to be refreshed. If you haven't refreshed it already, It should have been refreshed after April 1st before you go in to submit. SFAs are responsible for ensuring that all schools that are listed, as well as the accuracy of those numbers, so like your total enrollment and your total identified student percentages. And we'll talk about that in a couple of slides. So all SFAs, even those that are not intending to operate CEP, with the exceptions of your traditional RCCIs, you must submit that population data form in eScholar to us at the site level no later than April 15th. So we need you to make sure you are submitting that population by April 15th. All of the population data will be automatically pulled from the eScholar system. And all you basically need to do for population is to confirm that that data is correct and that all operating school sites are included in that data. So just come in a nutshell. Before April 1st, so prior to April 1st, the CEP manager was opened like in mid-March. You needed to go in and refresh the data to view. You need to reach out to us if there's any discrepancies on your school sites that are listed. So if the enrollment's incorrect, the school names are not there, or something's missing, you need to contact us. You also need to contact us if there are any sites that have zero enrollment and zero identified student. And any data population that was submitted before April 1st more than likely was returned back to the SFA because it needed to be waited till after April 1st to have the most accurate up-to-date data. So now after April 1st, we will start accepting any population that has been submitted. And the DC files, I want to reiterate this too. DC files from March will be uploaded as soon as they are received. As of now, we have not received that last files that you can use for CEP purposes, which is the March data. You can wait until those come in. Last year, I believe it came in like on the 9th, I believe it was. You can wait until those files are uploaded to ensure that every possible identified student is included before you actually submit your data. But again, it's really, really important if you see any discrepancies at this point, or if you haven't logged into CEP Manager, please log in, check it, and make sure that there's no discrepancies. And if they are, please reach out to us. And here are your main contacts when it comes to CEP questions are concerned. So Mary Katie Moses and Kylie Champagne are the two main contacts. If you can't get in touch with either one of them, you can always reach out to the main email address and phone number, and we will definitely get you in touch with them. Okay, let's talk about seamless summer option. So the SSO waiver, for those of you that are intending to do seamless summer, the application is submitted annually through the CMP website. It is actually open now to submit if someone is wanting to submit their application. It's under the Green School Food Service tab with the subheading Seamless Waiver. You only need to complete one application. Is what you put the different sites within that application. There is no sponsor level application where, like in summer feeding, you have a sponsor and a site, where this one for Seamless Summer is just one application with all the sites on it that you select the one that you are going to be participating at. If possible, please submit all of that together at the same time. We did talk about briefly about how SSO due dates should align with SFSP due dates. It's because of the fact that when non-congregate comes into play for summer feeding, we want to ensure that we are able to make sure we get our sites approved for SSO prior to someone that wants to do non-congregate in that same area, that we are approved first as a congregate feeding so that someone doesn't take over that particular area and do non-congregate in place. So if possible, if you can please submit these by mid-April, and so we can kind of make sure we get with the summer feeding staff to make sure nobody has submitted an application, because we're going to give the school the priority first. But if plans, and we do understand sometimes plans are not finalized till much later in the school year, we will probably reach out to you to ensure that you are still planning to do something. You just haven't had anything finalized yet if we don't see an application submitted. But if you don't have your plans finalized by mid-April, just try to submit as soon as possible. So Just as a reminder, when it comes to SSO, it does follow the same academic school year as NSLP. So it is July 1st through June 30th. Therefore, the SFA, if you're going to operate beyond June 30th, you will need to submit a new SSO application if you're going to operate any sites into July. You must, at that point, submit two separate SSO applications in order to be approved to operate both program years. So like June, July. When it comes to administrative reviews for SSO, we have to conduct administrative reviews for all SFAs participating in Seamless at least once during that 5-year review cycle. The reviews must occur when the SSO is in operation. So if you're operating in June and you are scheduled for a review, you will be receiving that review in June. During the on-site portion of the reviews, we'll observe meal service at one or more of your SSO sites. And the USDA does require that SSO sponsors receive their review either the summer before their scheduled administrative review or the summer after their regular administrative review. So if you had an administrative review this current school year and you hadn't had a review last summer, you will have a review this summer. So if you are planning to operate Seamless Summer, we did have a training in February, and the slides and the recording have been posted to the Louisiana Fit Kids website. All right, let's talk about Summer Food Service Program. So for SFSP, there are several things that require state agency approval. So these are some important things that must be approved. So all sites must be approved prior to the start of the operations. If SFAs are approved for congregant meal service, the meals must be consumed on site. Any meal served away from those approved locations without state agency approval, they're going to have to be disallowed. So if children take meals off site, meals cannot be claimed. That's very important about that. And SFAs must have approved non-congregant feeding sites established and approved within the CNP system before that non-congregant meal service can begin. So please make sure you're getting that state agency approval prior to starting your operation. On this slide is a screenshot from the memo of all the SFSP deadlines, and the memo is SFSP 2602. So for summer feeding, that summer feeding plan survey, that was due back in March, and that was on the CNP website. And then for SFAs, the sponsor and congregant site applications. So those congregant and site applications were due by March 30th. And then those non-congregant site requests are due by April 13th. And that's why we said it'd be ideal if SSO people can submit their applications by mid-April so we can make sure that someone doesn't want to come in and do non-congregant meal service in the area that you are planning to serve. And then the final non-congregant and other site applications are due by May 18th and greater than 14 days before operation. So on this slide, I have you refer back to the memo, which has other information on it. And if you have any questions, your main contact for summer feeding is Toya Porter, and I have her phone number and email on this slide. If you are interested in doing or operating summer food service program, either congregant or non-congregant or a combination of both, should have attended one of the training sessions that were listed. And you can go back and look at these slides because both slides for new sponsors and returning sponsors have been put on Louisiana Fit Kids website. Okay, let's talk about food service management company for those of you that use food service management. So if you do use those food service management companies, we have the slides that we took. We did a vended and we did a regular food service management company training back in January, and both of those slides have been added, both slides of that stats have been added to Louisiana Fit Kids website. In addition, those of you that attended the training know that there are a bunch of documents sometimes that have to be submitted depending on if you're renewing versus going off a bid. all of those documents have been added to our website. And here's just a reminder about some hard submission deadlines for all SFAs that use Food Service Management Company. So your step 1 documents should have been submitted to the state agency by March 31st. Your step 2 documents should be submitted to the state agency by May 31st. And just make sure whenever you're talking about step 2 that you should keep in mind that when planning proposal openings, keep in mind about the amount of time that it takes for the committee to properly evaluate those proposals, and considering all these factors will allow you to work out an accurate and realistic timeline to meet that deadline. And then your step 3 documents must be submitted within 10 days of that award notification. And any agreement amendments must be submitted to the state agency as well by April 30th. So those are the ones that are going to be renewing. That's going to be by April 30th. Okay, so let's go over some reminders about health inspections. We talked about this on the last monthly call as well. So as the SFA, it's your responsibility to request 2 food safety inspections from your local sanitarian office and document your efforts. So for those agencies that fail to obtain those 2 mandatory food safety inspections, we may request documentation from you to show that every effort has been made to comply with federal regulations, because it is required that you have 2 health inspections every year. You should always ensure to document your request in writing, to make sure you have the proper documentation of the efforts that you took to obtain these inspections. I know sometimes it can be difficult, especially if there's understaffed with LDH sanitarians, sorry. So we do have a lot of questions when it comes to, okay, I didn't get 2 of them yet. I've been requesting, so I need to put my claims in, but I don't have my 2 health inspections. So what happens if you request a health inspection, but it hasn't been conducted? You can still enter it into the CMP website. You should select the school site just like you were going to add an inspection in, except you would choose no when it asks you if you know the date of the inspection. And then for the reason for not inspecting, you will select the option that the inspection was requested but not conducted. And then once saved, it will show that you have it entered in the information for that school site, and the system should allow you to submit your claims. And when you receive that actual health inspection, whether it's a few days later, a month later, whenever it may be, you can log back into and edit that inspection for that school site and actually add that inspection in. So, and some more reminders when it comes to health inspection is when you're going to go in to submit your March claim for reimbursement, a reminder is going to appear prior to submitting that claim, asking if there are any current school year health inspections that need reporting on the system. So you're going to have to put a response. And then when it comes to your April claim, you will not be allowed to submit your claim beginning in April until your health inspection reports have been done for each NSLP approved site. So be mindful of that. Okay, let's talk about the audit report submission. So a memo did go out, and we'll talk about the memo when we get to the memo section. And this will be covered more at the state update on April 22nd. But in May of 2022, the state superintendent of education signed a memo directing all subrecipients of LDOE funding to submit audit reports through an LDOE electronic audit submission portal. And basically, it has come to light that some sponsors did not receive that memo and did not know to submit audit reports through that LDOE electronic audit portal submission portal, in addition to submitting through Louisiana Legislative Auditor website. So like people knew that they had to submit to the Legislative Auditor's website, but some people did not realize that they also had to submit to that LDOE electronic portal. In addition, it has also come to light that some of the private and parochial sponsors are exempt from submitting to the Louisiana Legislative Auditor's Office. So they are not exempt, though, from the Louisiana Revised Statute that tells them that private and parochial sponsors, that doesn't exempt them from submitting to that LDOE. And this kind of came about with the auditor that we have here on site, and that's why he's coming to speak to us. And when I say submitting, you may not be, when I say you, meaning the SFA might not be the person that's actually submitting this audit. It may be someone else in your district that's submitting. So if you can pass this information on to whoever would normally submit your audit reports to either LLA or to LDOE. Again, this will be discussed in more detail at the state update, but if there are questions in the meantime relating to the portal or how audits need to be submitted, I have Dudley's email address and phone number on here. We've had a couple of people contact him already, but if you have any additional questions or you're not sure, or the person that actually submits your audit has questions, please direct them to Dudley. One more slide about summer EBT. So I just want to remind people also that LDOE, us here, the Division of Nutrition Support, is not the lead agency for summer EBT. Summer EBT is handled through LDH. So basically, we just need to make sure that LEAs are aware that Louisiana Department of Health has developed a new data sharing agreement for the 2026 summer EBT, or what we call the Sunbucks program. So what's important here is that superintendents should have received a data sharing agreement directly from that LDH PEBT support email address, and I have it listed on here. They should have received that email on Thursday, March 5th. And the purpose of that data sharing agreement is to securely share student eligibility data for free and reduced price meals or other qualifying criteria as required to determine whether they are eligible for Sunbucks. All shared information will be handled in strict compliance with federal and state privacy laws and used solely for the administration of the program. The LEA has to return that signed agreement either using the DocuSign or a wet signature. And this is also important to note because LDOH has currently suspended data manager access to Summer EBT portal for data uploads, and their access will not be reinstated until they receive that data sharing agreement and it's fully executed by the LEA. So if however, this may not be you, and more than likely, like I said, it went to the superintendent, or if you have data managers, please make sure that they did what they were supposed to do by submitting that data sharing agreement. If they have questions about this, they can contact that LDOH PEBT support regarding that. But that is a big thing that some people, from what we're seeing or what we're being told, is that a lot of people have not submitted, or a lot of LEAs have not submitted that data sharing agreement yet. Okay, we have quite a few memos to go over today, as you can see. So the first one is about the April training. So today is the monthly call. We do know we have several people that are on spring break. So again, they can watch the recording and slides. The next state update is going to be on Wednesday, April 22nd, and that state update will strictly be on the administrative review and the procurement review training. Again, this is in person and is at Pennington. If you have not already registered, the registration is open on Louisiana Fit Kids. And as always, if today's call, anybody was unable to make today's call, you can refer them to the slides in the recording. And then if anybody is unable to make the state update, those slides will be posted on Louisiana Fit Kids within a week. It's usually a couple of days, but we like to say within a week. The next memo was about the February SNAP and TANF files that were loaded into eScholar. So those districts should resolve the near matches in those batches that are below. And please, if you need assistance, you can email Wongon. The next memo was about the February Medicaid free lunch and the Medicaid reduced lunch. And same thing for here, the district should resolve the near matches in those batches that are listed here. And as again, you can email Wongon for assistance. This was the memo. The next one was about the audit report submission portal. So it's just basically a reminder to school board authorities about those requirements for submitting those annual audits to LDOE. So within that memo, there was a memo from May 23rd of 2022 that included information about that. I said previously that this will be discussed, and SFAs will be trained on the matter at the upcoming state update, whether it's training you to bring back that information to your district, or if it is you for some reason that would be submitting the audit, you will receive training on that. And again, in the meantime, if you have questions, please contact our Director of Internal Audit, which is Dudley, over here at LDOE. This next slide was about the Summer Food Service Program returning sponsor training clarification. So this memo clarified several topics and provided important reminders for the 2026 SFSP. Training slides from those trainings were available, or now available, I should say, on Louisiana Fit Kids website. One other thing that was very important is that the use of kid care is a requirement for all SFSP sponsors. School systems, though, do have the option to continue to use your current software program. So if if you have a current system that you're using, you can continue to use that for SFSP. Paper hash mark sheets are to be used only during certain circumstances. And again, you would need to reach out to Toya to see when those circumstances would be approved for. It includes information about non-congregate meals. So there's more information in this memo about non-congregate meals. And it also includes some non-congregate resources as well. This next memo was also about the summer food service programs that survey that was due on March 16th. And the purpose basically of that survey was to let the state agency to kind of be informed of that essential information to see what you're doing, what your intentions. And they do understand that it was projected information and it may change prior to submission of your actual online application. All right, so this next memo is a USDA memo, and it's a reminder to the state agencies and local educational agencies about the statutory deadline for LEAs to elect CEP for the following school year. So they very, very important that those elections are due by June 30th. The memo also provides a reminder about the annual CEP notification and publication requirements. So regulations require state agencies to notify LEAs of CEP eligibility by April 15th of this year. And then regulations also requires LEAs to submit school level eligibility data, or what we call population data, to the state agency by April 15th. And then lastly, regulations require us as a state agency to publish that list of eligible and near eligible LEAs and schools on our website by May 1st. So that's why it is very important that everything is submitted by April 15th so that by May 1st, we can publish those lists of eligible and near eligible LEAs on our website. This memo was about the SFSP applications being open. So they want you to review the timeline within the memo to ensure that the application is submitted by those deadlines that we went over. And again, they wanted to also remind you that the state agency approval of the SFSP online application is required prior to the operation of the SFSP program. And again, if meals are served on dates prior to state agency approval, those meals will not be reimbursable. Okay, so this is another USDA memo that provided notice to CNP operators regarding the 2026 Appropriations Act that was enacted back in November of 2025. So this is almost like a reminder of some things that are still current for this school year and some things into next school year. So just to remind everybody, the 2026 Appropriations Action allows SFAs participating in the school breakfast program to credit any vegetable offered in place of fruit without including vegetables from other subgroups in the weekly menus. So this particular provision is effective for the remainder of this school year and into next school year. And it restricts USDA from enforcing that vegetable variety requirement at breakfast when you're using this flexibility. So you are not required to make any breakfast changes, like any menu changes to your breakfast. USDA continues, though, to encourage operators to include a variety of vegetables at breakfast when using this optional menu planning flexibility to give children, expose those children to the nutrients that come from a variety of vegetables. So again, that part about crediting vegetables at breakfast is for the current school year and next school year. The Appropriations Act also states that program funds may not be used to procure raw or processed poultry or seafood products imported into the U.S. from the People's Republic of China. And this applies to all CMPs and remains effective through September of 2026. So specific to that, the use of chicken and seafood from China is through September of 2026. And then for the 2026 Appropriations Act for 26-27 school year, only SFAs that had a negative balance in that nonprofit school food service account as of June 30th of 25 shall be required to establish a price for paid lunches according to the PLE provisions. So this means that any SFA with a positive or zero balance in its account as of June 30th of 25 is exempt from that PLE pricing requirement for 26-27 school year. And so they're telling us that USDA is going to provide additional guidance for SFAs that are required to comply with that paid lunch equity provision during 26-27. So basically, you're saying if you have a positive or zero, you are exempt for completing that PLE tool. And additional information is to come from USDA with the PLE tool that if you need to complete it, they're basically telling us that the PLE tool is to come with those instructions. And then lastly, the Act requires state agencies to report the number of annual food safety inspections obtained by schools under their jurisdictions to USDA for the 25-26 school year. At least twice during the school year, schools have to obtain that food safety inspection that is conducted by your state or local government that is responsible for doing those inspections. So basically, the reason why they're telling for the Appropriations Act we have to do it, so that's why we have to ensure that SFAs are getting those health inspections, and that we have to report everything to USDA. Okay, let's go over some trainings and events that are coming up. So again, today is the monthly call, and like I said, we understand if people are on their spring break. April 22nd, we have as our next state update that's in person. And then May 5th is our next monthly call. And then on May 12th will be the CEP elections training. So please make sure, I believe all have been posted on Louisiana Fit Kids at this point. So if you have not registered already, please go and register for these trainings. Last week, there was a training on Farm to School. It was presented by Louisiana Farm to School, and it was on procurement and geographic preference. It took place on Wednesday, March 25th, and the slides have been posted to Louisiana Fit Kids. And the training had a lot of good information in it. It included strategies for incorporating local food purchases, and it highlighted the expansion of the geographic preference option, as well as how to define local, how to write those specifications, and where you can find local food to purchase. So if you were unable to attend that training, please go and view those slides. Crystal Bessie presented that. And I know we do have a lot of questions still about local procurement and what's allowed and what's not. So please refer to those slides and see if those questions are now cleared up, or if you have any additional questions that you can reach out to her for. Okay, let's talk about manager training. So virtual manager training is going to be June 22nd through the 24th. So you have 2 full days of training and then a half day of training, and then the other half of the day is the assessment. So if you have managers that are wanting to attend this training, please make sure that they have their own email address, that they have their own computer and a reliable internet at the place that they are training, and then that the assessment will be computerized, and participants are required to be proctored either by the director or someone that has been designated. and you can also host the assessment in a computer lab if you need to. The link for the virtual site will be sent to each participant, SFA, and the proctor in approximately a week prior to the start of the training. So this is posted on Louisiana Fit Kids to register. If you can, please register by June 18th so that we can get all the necessary compiled lists and get those sites and the links and everything sent out to the necessary people prior to June 22nd. All right, the in-person manager training, this is usually very popular and fills up very quickly. This training will be held July 6th through the 8th at Pennington. It'll be 2 full days of training, a half day of training, and then the other half of the day will be the assessment. This in-person training will be held at Pennington. It does have a registration cost of $80. There'll be a limited number of attendees, so you can only have up to 40 people to the room that we're in. So only 40 people can register for this training, and lunch will be provided each day. This is posted on Louisiana Fit Kids website, so please go and register if you have managers that you are planning to attend in training. But please, if you can you please register by June 30th? So what happens with this one, a lot of times we will we'll have a waiting list because we have so many people that are wanting to attend this training. And if you know that you're going to register, please register. And then if for some reason we see that there is some people that have to cancel or something, that we can go into that waiting list. And so that way by June 30th, we will have a good idea of how many people we have on that waiting list that we can potentially add into the class. So we have new director training coming up as well. So if you are a new director, please save the date. This will be a 2-day in-person training, be held July 21st and 22nd at Pennington. We are in the process still of developing this training, but it's going to be similar to the Introduction to School Nutrition Leadership training that ICN offers. Now, this training is going to be specific for new directors, preferably with less than 2 years of experience. However, if we do have the space, we will allow for a director with up to 5 years of experience to attend because, again, we're limited to the space. But if we do see the need to expand it, we possibly can. Registration will be posted to Louisiana Fit Kids soon, so there is more information to come on this. We just talked about having to potentially cancel a training if you're unable to attend. So if you are registered for a training and for some reason you are now unable to attend that training, you can go and update or cancel your registration at any time. So you just need to refer back to that email confirmation that you received whenever you did register. And then you click on update cancel meeting registration, and then it will take you to Louisiana Fit Kids website where you update or cancel your registration. And then you will then receive another email confirmation of the either update that you made or the cancellation that you made. And this is very important when it comes to things like state updates and in-person trainings and manager trainings in person, because if you are unable to attend, if you go and cancel your registration because you were unable to attend, somebody else can take your spot rather than just not show up for a training and we have no idea. Okay, and lastly, we will go over some Louisiana Tray of the Week. We've gone over this on every monthly call. It seems to be doing really well. It does continue through May 15th. Again, you can send your photos to Kathy Carmichael or Louisiana Fit Kids email address. Schools and districts across Louisiana are invited to participate, and each week the selected trays are featured on Louisiana Fit Kids social media. So what do you need to do to take part in this? Like I just said, you email your tray photos to the Louisiana Fit Kids email address or to Kathy Carmichael. You make sure that your tray meets the meal pattern requirements by clearly showing all the components offered. You can include a short description of the menu items and indicate the school where this meal was served and provide the date that you actually served this meal. And just as a reminder, the food should be attractively plated on the tray and photographed, and the tray must show an accurate representation of what your students selected or what they could select for their meal. So we had some tips here about how to photograph your tray. So you don't want to be too close, you don't want to be too high, you just want to be right at that right angle and right height. And I just wanted to, we had a lot of people say, where can I view the different trays of the week? So the selected trays are featured on Louisiana Fit Kids social media platforms as well as their website. You can go to the website and look under the weekly winner galleries. And I just took some snippets of all the different trays of the week that are posted in their gallery. So I have a link on this slide if you'd like to view those. And that is all I have for today's monthly call. I will look in the chat to see if we have any questions. Okay, it looks like the question was answered. We had a question about the summer feeding application, which is still open. If anybody has any questions, they can put them in the chat. I'll wait a minute or so to see. I am being asked to highlight the audit information. So let me go back to that slide with the audit. So we're talking about how the audits have to be submitted. I could go back to, let me find the audit slide with the audit right here. So if you refer back to the memo that we have posted, it talks about, it redirects you to a memo that was submitted or sent out in May of 2022. So sponsors not only have to submit audits to the legislative auditors, they also have to submit through the LDOE portal. So there actually is a link on the memo to the portal, and Dudley will be coming speak at the state update. And again, you in particular may not be submitting this audit. Someone in your district may be, but it also may be you that's missed this audit. But everyone should be submitting audits to LDOE, to that submission portal, that electronic admissions portal. If you need a contact or need to be added to the CEP manager, if you would like to contact us, if you want to contact Katie and she can get in touch with Anantha, or if you would like to directly contact Anantha, let me get to the CEP. I have Anantha's email on this slide, or if you're more familiar with Katie, Mary Katie Moses, you can contact Katie and she can get you in touch with the correct people to get access to CEP manager. All right, I am not seeing anything else in the slide. So again, I'm going to go to the last slide here where I always have the main email address and the main phone number for nutrition support. If you ever need any questions answered or you need any additional information, please contact us at 225-342-9661 or Child Nutrition Programs at la.gov. So that'll be it for today's call, and we hope to see people on April 22nd at our next state update. Thank you.